up, folks? Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Locker Room. I'm your host, Brian Tull. And today's episode, I'm going to quickly go through some of the thoughts of the first games of the NBA playoffs. That's the big sports story this weekend. I'm also going to discuss a little bit about, a little of the Kobe tweet, Tweetgate. So I'll get into that. So let's get right into it. So I'll start with the Eastern Conference. Miami, Milwaukee. Not much to say here. I think Miami showed why they're the defending champions. Brandon Jennings had a lot to say, and I don't blame Brandon for saying what he had to say. What else you expected to say? We're gonna get swept, lose by 20 each game. So he had to do what he had to do and rep for his team, and he did that, and he played great too, by the way. But Miami's just too much everybody. Too much Bosh, too much LeBron, too much Wade, too much Ray Allen, it's too much Birdman. It was like. It was an onslaught. So, I see this. I still give Milwaukee one game, as I said before in the preview, in the NBA playoff preview. So, I think that's going to be a quick, efficient out for Milwaukee. Miami's going to put them out of their misery pretty quickly. Knicks, Celtics, 2 versus 7 seed. The Knicks pulled away late. I think a lot of these games are going to be like this, where it seems to be a lot of like back and forth, slugging it out. I still think this series might go 7. I don't think Boston's, I don't think they've tasted Boston's best punch yet. I think you might see a big game by Pierce in the Garden, so look out for that. So I still think this series is going to go 7. But as I mentioned, on the last podcast, Carmelo's going to get his. Can J.R. Smith deliver? And he did in game 1. So I think with the help of some of the bench as well too, and support players, Kidd, Kenyon, they all came through for them late in the game. So I think one thing to watch for this series is Tyson Chandler's health. He didn't look great in this series, and they're going to need him if they want to move ahead in the next round, especially if they have to play a team like Indiana. That leads me to them. Pacers look pretty good. The offense was flowing really well. They're just a drag them out type of team. So when playoff time comes, it already suits their style of play. Hansborough was really effective, especially in the first half. Paul George was, even though he didn't shoot great, he was all over the place. And you can just tell they're a little too much right now for Atlanta. I don't even know what to say about Atlanta. I think Atlanta's actually ready to go fishing at this point. They don't know if they want to be there. So I don't know. I'm wondering if this series here even gets more than one game for Atlanta. The more I look at it, so who knows? I think I had Pacers in 5, but who knows? It could be a sweep for this one. And the 4-5 matchup, I think this is still going to be a very compelling, interesting series. Brooklyn are out in the Barclays Center. There goes my theory about home court advantage not being too much in Brooklyn. The crowd was crazy. Brooklyn came out on fire pretty much. I think Noah's injury is going to be so costly. I'm not sure if Chicago can overcome this. It's one thing when they're playing without Rose for the year, they can adjust to that. But without Noah now late in the season, Boozer actually had a good game during the playoffs. Shocking, he was easily their best player. But I know Chicago's got a lot of pride and they play hard. I don't think they're going to put them out that easily. So I'm going to stick with my 7 games in Chicago for now. I think the Bulls just have a certain set of pride, and Thibodeau's a really good coach. So I think, this is not the last we've heard of them. In the Western Conference, Oklahoma City just ran right through Houston. I'm not even sure what Kevin McHale's strategy was in this series, in this game. It was pretty much like, we're just going to run. It's Houston anyhow. We'll just run up the court and shoot threes. Jeremy Lin, boy, you Knicks fans probably think you dodged a bullet on that one. He looked horrible in this game. Kenny Smith was breaking down the decision-making process of some of the stuff he did, especially late in the first half, where really the game got away from them. And your point guard's got to make better decisions than what he was making. The one across the baseline where Durant picked it off was just like, I used to play a little point. That was just inexcusable. That's like point guard 101 when you're learning to play point guard as a kid. So I don't even know what he was thinking down there. But I expect Lin to have a bounce back game, play better in game 2. Harden didn't look great either, so I'm not letting him off the hook. I think the only guy that seemed to be out there ready to play, I think, was Ashik and Parsons. I think looked pretty strong, and the young kid Beverly played pretty well in the first half. But they need more from Lin, need more for Harden to have any chance of even getting a game, let alone trying to win a series. So OKC looked great. They were hungry and ready to go. Westbrook was Westbrook as usual. Durant was smooth. Can't say anything else. And of course, Ibaka, if he's able to play at that level throughout the playoffs, OKC will be a force. I don't think they'll beat Miami, but it'll probably make it more competitive if they met in the finals against Miami. 2 versus 7 seed. Lakers, Spurs. Ginobili came back. Popovich looked like he was playing possum here. How Ginobili wasn't sure what they're going to get out of Ginobili. He looked fantastic, but that's a little fool's gold sometimes with Manu. He has a way of looking unbelievable for a couple games, and then once you kind of figure him out a little bit, he could go in the tank pretty quickly. But in this series, I don't think they have a matchup to deal with him. In the past, Manu's always had trouble with length, and unless Kobe's going to show up from his bed in this case here, have a miraculous comeback, there's no one really that can cover him, on the Lakers at this point. So, heck, I would be, I would even try if he's on the roster. I can't remember if he got hurt or anything, but, maybe he did. I don't know. It's like, so anyone tell me, is Earl Clark not on the roster or he got hurt? Because I don't recall seeing him out there during the game. Maybe he was, but I didn't see him much out there. But I would put him out there on Manu, and I'm not sure. Maybe he got hurt in one of the last games of the season. Maybe not. I know Artest is back, so I know that's eating up his time, but he would be a guy I would consider putting him out there. True, Ginobili's got the step on him, but he's got enough length to kind of cover him, at least to make it a little more challenging on the jump shot. So who knows? But this series, I think, is still going to be a pretty tough series. I think D'Antoni is just like messing up the flow of things with trying to insert Nash in here. I know that's his boy, but really at this stage of the game, Nash needs to sit down, bring him off the bench. But right now, I think you gotta just ride with Blake and Jody Meeks, as scary as that sounds. Go with the one that brung you. And I think right now he's got to stick with those guys right now because, they were providing some offense from the perimeter. Blake was scoring like 25, 26 a night in the 2-3 games that he was out there. And he's getting a good shooting groove. And I think Nash, for 2 things Nash messed up on. He messed up on the flow that those guys had in the backcourt. And secondly, he messed up on what he's messing up the flow with is how they played Gasol. Because all of a sudden they're back again with these pick and rolls, which are not effective with Gasol out there. He's just not a pick and roll guy, man. So as far as I'm concerned, they were just dumping the ball and just being very methodical before the Nash injury, or when the Nash was injured. And I think they need to get back to that and stop trying to force this type of style, that might be great for Nash, but it's not helping anybody else. And if Nash can't shoot, Nash really has no purpose to be out there at this point. He can't guard, he can't defend. His penetration skills at this point are limited. So what is he out there for? It's pretty much to shoot. And if you can't do that, there's no sense of having him out there. You're just screwing up the offense. So let me move on from that series. Spent more than enough time with the Lakers. I'll get back to them in a second about this Tweetgate. Then afterwards, we're into the 3-6 matchup. I think this is the best matchup in the Western Conference in the first round. It was really hard to see. So Nuggets, Warriors. Hard to see David Lee go down like that. Kind of really took a little steam out of this series. But I still think it's going to be an entertaining series. I still think Steph Curry's going to kind of go off. If anything to do, he seems to be a guy that likes the big moments, the big stage. I think he's going to have a really good series. Still think the Nuggets are going to win this series, maybe like in 6. But we'll see what happens now with the injuries here, with the injury to the Lee. And see what happens with Fareed on the Denver side. So it's going to be a fun series. I'm looking forward to hoping that series goes a little longer. So we'll see. And then the 4-5 matchup, which is a pretty decent matchup, I would say. Clippers, Memphis should be a 7-game series, but Memphis just has an issue with scoring right now. They need a heavy dose of Zach. I know everyone's on the Gasol tip. Marc Gasol this, Marc Gasol that. I know Marc Gasol is a good player, a very good player, but he's not a premier type of dude where you're running your offense through him. And he's just not that type of guy. So, let's fall back. This team's going to go as far as Randolph takes them. And Conley, to be honest with you, because right now with Rudy Gay, the trade with Rudy Gay, Conley's the dude in the perimeter. And you got to wonder in this case here, when you got Bayless playing this many minutes out there, I don't know how much you're going to get out of Tayshaun Prince at this point in his career. Memphis is going to struggle in fourth quarters, I think, trying to score. And I think this league's, even though you have to play strong defense, it's also true, I think, in this league now, you have to score. The days of having teams, like maybe the Pistons, a few years ago that were scoring 85 points a game and win championships, I don't think you could win that way to win a championship. You need to have guys that explosive scorers. You look at the last couple teams that won. I mean, the Celtics are the big three. They were a good scoring team that year when they won. The Lakers that won, they were a pretty good scoring team too. Then you throw in there Dallas and Miami the last couple of years, high scoring teams as well, efficient scoring teams. And even if you throw in Oklahoma City getting the finals, you need teams that can score and get the ball in the hoop. That's the name of the game. I don't care how much defense you play. If you can't score, you're going to be struggling just to get through and labor through fourth quarters. And we see a lot of teams that have those problems running out of steam late in games. You saw it with the Celtics against the Knicks. You saw it with Memphis against the Clippers. And you see it with the Lakers as well, too. So we'll see what happens in that series. So those are my thoughts there. As far as Tweetgate goes, I don't know. It brings an interesting dilemma for the NBA and for all sports organizations. Because when are you still kind of quote unquote in the office, and when are you now in your own private time now as a citizen? So Kobe Bryant here, if anyone doesn't realize what happened on Saturday, Sunday when the Lakers game was happening against the Spurs, Kobe Bryant was tweeting from his house and making some comments and some critiques of what was going on with the Lakers offense and defense. Referring to how Gasol and Dwight weren't in the post enough, talking about the Matador defense against Tony Parker. And you wonder, okay, is this kind of crossing the line where he's being too critical, and obviously this reflects on the coach, or is he allowed as a citizen, a private citizen, to state his feelings about the game he's watching, like the rest of us? I'm in two minds about this. In some ways, I can see how I think where this is a slippery slope in some ways. I'll go on the record saying what he said. I don't think in this case should reprimand him, or he should be reprimanded for it, or have Stern coming down with the gavel on him or something like that. I think what he said was fine, I think overall, but you can easily see how a line can be crossed, depending on who the individual is and what they say on Twitter. So I don't know. I mean, he's already pulled back, saying he won't be tweeting during the next game. A little disappointed because I started following him to see what he had to say. Even though he does seem to have some interesting things to say, doesn't even matter. He's not talking about basketball, so it sure would be entertaining to kind of follow Kobe. But I am a little disappointed he's not going to be tweeting the next game, because it was interesting to hear his thoughts and how he thinks about the game and how he sees certain scenarios. So I hope in this case here, folks don't get too concerned about, oh my gosh, Twitter is going to destroy the league and destroy the coaches and stuff like that. I think everybody here is big boys, and D'Antoni's a big boy. I did kind of get a good chuckle how Kobe's reaching out to Phil during the game, so that was quite funny. So I think D'Antoni could probably feel the guillotine in this case and know that pretty much in about a week's time, I think he'll be coaching his last game as a Laker. I don't know who will be the coach after that, but I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, interesting to see if he's actually around. Like, I don't think he'll be around, but I think the Kobe injury does give him a possibility that he could be around next season. So we'll see. Dwight's decision will have something to do with that as well, too. But anyways, that's all my thoughts for this week's the NBA playoffs. Next week I'll get back and touch on some things going on, because the NHL playoffs will be coming up, and get into that discussion. Who I like for the Stanley Cup, and I can't believe here that the Leafs are actually in the playoffs. 9 years, I think it is. I mean, they're having a parade around the city about this. So I'm no Leafs fan, but hey, I guess congrats to them. We'll see what they do in the playoffs. Should be interesting to watch Leaf fans here be tormented on every single shot, save, goal, penalty, and everything else that happens in the next few weeks this spring. So that should be entertaining, at least in my neck of the woods. But give me your thoughts and comments below, and I look forward to speaking to you guys next week. So stay safe, and we'll talk next week. Later.